You're listening to Cinema IRL, the podcast that throws you into the movie and asks the question, what would you do? You've heard of fake it until you make it, right? Well, how about fake it even if you make it? Amber and Scott discuss Fly Me to the Moon and if it pays to try to fake one of the most significant events of the last 50 years. And now, Cinema IRL.
I wish I could switch places for just one day.
You find yourself in the unique position.
What would you do?
Put yourself in my shoes.
How do we handle this?
What would you do?
What would you do?
How do you want to handle this?
What would you do?
Put yourself in my position.
What would you do?
Now it's your turn.
To the moon, Alice!
And I was thinking, fly me to the moon.
Well, yeah, but they sang that song in the
I know.
movie. I needed to go with something
You
else.
needed to go the other direction. I get that. So today we are talking about Fly Me to the Moon. It is a drama set against the high-stakes backdrop of NASA's historic Apollo 11 moon landing. Brought in to fix NASA's public image, sparks fly in all directions as marketing maven Kelly Jones wreaks havoc on launch director Cole Davis's already difficult task. When the White House deems the mission too important to fail, Jones is directed to stage a fake moon landing as a backup plan.
Okay, I think we've said this enough at this point. We're quite a few episodes in.
If you're just joining us.
So that said, before we actually say something that requires spoilers, if you've not seen this movie, do stop this episode. Do go watch this movie.
It was great.
This movie was great. I freaking loved it. It was amazing. I don't want to spoil anything without giving you fair warning, but I'm going to spoil things, because that's kind of who I am as a person.
And that's what we do here. So although we are not a movie review show, we do really like this film, enjoyed it a lot, so we don't want to spoil it for you. So if you have any interest in Fly Me to the Moon, please go watch it and then come back and listen to our episode.
Yes, and you've got about 3, 2, 1 left to pause it. Okay, here come the spoilers. Yeah, no, I really like this movie.
It was enjoyable from beginning to end, just a really enjoyable film.
Yeah.
It was funny. It was smart.
Yeah, I really liked the marketer. She was
Kelly.
amazing. Like, she could just schmooze her way to anything she wanted. Like, convincing people in the 60s to put seat belts in their frickin' Mustangs.
Yes, Kelly was amazing at her job, which we later learned was because she was a con artist when she was growing up with her mom, and they would pull cons, and so she got really good at being able to get what she wanted from folks and using different accents to blend in and form rapport with folks.
Yeah, like, do you have a Louisiana accent? New Orleans or Baton Rouge?
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, I guess you do.
Yeah, she was a great character, and Cole, who was the launch director, very much didn't like having her around because her job was to get people to support the space program, which had waning support after some false starts and some unsuccessful missions, and she just pulled out all the stops to make friends and influence people. Dale Carnegie would have been proud of her.
Yeah. Cole didn't seem to like her at first, but I think when Cole actually saw how what she did got
and getting
results.
them funding.
Because the thing was with him, he's a results guy. That's all he cares about. What's the end result? Do I get the result that I want? And he might not have liked some of her methods, but once she had to start convincing senators to give money and was taking no votes and turning them into yes votes.
Right, because they needed funding from the government to get what they needed for the Apollo 11 mission.
Now, yes. Okay, now he likes her. Though he liked her when he thought she was a stranger.
Yeah, they had a chance encounter at a local diner the day before she started and kind of hit it off and had that awkward chemistry moment. And then the next day get thrust into a work environment and he realizes, oh, shoot, this lady's going to create some problems for me.
And who the fuck throws a martini on a flame wanting to put it out?
Right. So she accidentally had her book touch a candle, and
I didn't like that because she was smart. Like she's one of those people that was a smart character, and that was a dumb thing.
people react in the moment of crisis. So yes, she accidentally catches her book on fire with a candle. Cole comes over and she tries to put it out with her martini and makes it bigger, and he saves the day. So that was their first encounter before they actually met at work, and he realized, hey, this lady is a big thorn in my side. And then as the movie progresses, wow, this lady's getting me some funding and support for this program and this launch. So
how about that? What would you not do? I would not come back in if I'm Cole and tell her that you're the most beautiful woman I've seen in a long time. Da, da, da. Bye.
At the diner. Yes, the day before that they met at the workplace.
Before he realized who she was, like just the whole basically.
What do you mean who would do that? That's a bold move. Any woman would go gaga over that.
Oh yeah. No. I'm not saying that people. Well, so here's the thing though. I wouldn't do it, one, because I'm a wuss.
So just to be clear for folks, he left after the fire and then came back in and said, I just want you to know that you're the most beautiful woman I've seen in a long time.
Yeah,
but I can't do anything. I'd love to buy you a drink, but I've got other stuff I've got to concentrate on.
Yeah, profess his lust and then say, oh, bye.
Yeah.
Oh,
well, he was focused.
Have a nice life.
He was only trying to get a man on the moon. That's all. He had other stuff to focus on.
Well, I know. That's why I would just be focusing on it. I wouldn't try to introduce a skirt into my world.
Well, and he wasn't, but he wanted her to know that he thought she was special.
Well, yeah. Well, here's the thing, though. It did, in a way, come back to bite him in the ass, because you never know who you're going to talk to that might end up being in your life in a different way. He thought he was talking to a stranger, but in the end, he was talking to someone who was actually going to be a pain in his ass.
But who
knew that he was attracted to her, so she could kind of pull some shit.
If we had a crystal ball, I'm sure we'd all make very different choices than the ones we have.
I don't know.
I know I would.
I don't know. Maybe I'm pretty perfect.
So there was some very interesting what would you do in this episode, and for new listeners, that's what we do here is we put ourselves in the place of the characters in the movie and talk about what we would do. So one of the big plot points toward the last half of the film was the guy who hired Kelly, this kind of mystery government guy named Mo, wants Kelly to stage a production of a fake moon landing in case things don't go right. And they still want to deliver a win for America and a win against the Russians. And so he wants a backup plan to show Americans on the moon. So
everyone railed against him on that. That was just smart business. I'm sorry.
So what would you do and put in that situation? You'd just be, that's a good idea. Let's do that.
Yeah, I actually think it was a good idea, honestly, because you just never know, no matter how much faith you have in a person or a project or a belief or anything, shit can go sideways. Stuff you don't even plan for goes sideways. And if anyone should know that, it would be NASA, seeing as at that point, they were batting 50% on their last 30 missions. 15 missions succeed, 15 missions fail. So listen, it's great to have faith, but you can't have that one go sideways on the world stage. Not with the geopolitical stakes that were involved in USA versus Russia and everything. We would have looked so weak as a country, and I actually believe it could have had a bad long-term effect on us as a country as it pertained to the Cold War, because it would have emboldened the USSR to probably continue their expansionism a bit, because they would have viewed us as weaker.
So here's the interesting part is, number one, the movie played up the fact that some people do believe that the moon landing was faked. And number two, that later in the film, after they create this Plan B theatrical version of them landing on the moon, Mo, our mysterious government agent, says we're airing the fake one regardless of how it turns out.
Well,
and at that point, Kelly starts to have some ethics and hatches a plan to make sure that the live stream is actually sent out to viewers.
Well, so that was scary, because if something went wrong with the live stream, they hardwired shit. They couldn't go back. Like,
yeah, if they blew up upon disembarking the Apollo 11 or anything else, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, when they did that, they blew up the entire plan that was involved there. But it was interesting because it actually taught a very good life lesson, is that sometimes even when you're playing it safe, you're not playing it safe because that was their controlled environment. That was
This set, the fake moon
yeah,
set?
the fake one was their controlled environment. They could control everything around them. They knew nothing was going to blow up. Everything was going to be fine until you get a damn black cat that decides to run onto the moon.
Right. So they had, as part of Kelly's plan, they were showing Mo the mock moon and the recreation made to mirror what was happening in real time, but they were actually broadcasting the real feed, but they didn't want to get in trouble with Mo, so they created this whole big plan to be like, oh, no, we're airing the mock moon landing. And yes, the cat who has appeared throughout the film all of a sudden does jump on the moon. So it was a good thing that they had not been airing that feed.
Well, it's not like Mo could have gone home and restreamed it on CNN.com when he got back to make sure that was the real one or he saw the same one. I mean,
yes, 1969, it was a one and done.
Yeah, exactly. So he was going to see it and he would never be any the wiser.
Right.
Especially since no one outside of that building knew. Well, I mean, only like half a dozen people or so even knew that he was seeing a fake feed.
Yeah, and it was pretty much
So-
choreographed to match what the astronauts were actually doing on the moon. So if the video was next to each other, which at one point in the film it would be difficult to differentiate one from the other. So
Oh yeah, they weren't even sure which feed they were viewing until the cat was out there. They looked at the screen and saw that there was no cat on the feed.
right, because the actual feed was being broadcast. So in this case, what would you do if you had a job, an important job, and someone comes in and starts making your job harder, which is what Kelly did for Cole until ultimately she started showing some results? What would you do in a situation like that?
I mean, I guess I probably wouldn't act too differently from the way Cole did on that one. He basically first tried to get rid of her.
Yeah, he stuck
And-
her in a office that was basically a storage unit.
And he couldn't get rid of her. So at a certain point, you just have to say, okay, well, this is the hand I'm being dealt. I mean, this is basically coming from the president of the United States. So, it's not like I can say no. So you deal with it as best you can and get around it or find a way to work with that person. I think he did try to play loner a little too much at that point. He should have been like, okay, well, listen, we're going to have to work together whether I like it or not, and I don't. So how about we find a way for you to do your job in a way that I will find acceptable so we can coexist? And that was one thing he never really did and should have done. And his extreme resistance to it is what caused her to start making decisions that she probably shouldn't have made. Like, recasting some of the people there as other people.
Yeah, what she did is when she realized the people there weren't going to cooperate for interviews, she hired actors to portray them and put them on air to give interviews. I guess one of the things I think would be an interesting perspective for what would you do is the reason Kelly actually did a lot of this is because of her con artist background, and she was on multiple identities, Kelly being one of many that she had had along the way. And because of something that had happened with her mom and a con gone wrong and someone died, she was on the run her entire life. So she was always coming up with different names and personas. And when someone has something like that on you and can leverage you to do other things that you might not want to do because you're afraid of your secret being let out, that is not a good place to be in life.
No, it's not. And that was the thing. That was the major leverage that Mo had was, hey, I could make all of that disappear. Poof, gone. And that's when she's like, well, wait, so you mean the thing that has literally haunted me my entire life, you could make go away? Okay, I'm listening.
Yeah. From a what would you do perspective, I think a lot of people, probably the majority, if not all people, would take that out as finally having your fresh start and not having to look over your shoulder for the rest of your life.
Yeah, if you're one of those people who's in need of a fresh start, you're willing to do most whatever it takes to get said fresh start. So yeah, I can't say I blame her in any way, shape, or form. I mean, she did what she needed to do. Like, I don't even know about the crisis of conscience at the end, really. I mean, in the end, you're being told by the government coming from 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue what you are having to do in this scenario. And I mean, there is a certain point you just like, unless you're part of his actual inner circle, you don't question the president. I mean, at least right now I don't. We'll find out after November, but.
So yes, great film and really enjoyable and a good glimpse as to what it might have been to live in that period of the late 1960s and being a part of a mission to put a man on the moon.
One small step for man.
One giant step for mankind.
One
giant leap. One giant leap for mankind.
Yes, I think.
Yes, it is one giant leap for mankind.
Is it? Or is that one to the Mandelas? I want to say there's a Mandela thing associated that you might actually be right. It might be one giant step for mankind.
No.
Everyone thinks it's giant leap.
In the movie, they said leap. I misspoke.
No, they definitely said leap in the movie. I gotta remember to look it up. I want to say that there's a Mandela thing, and he actually said one giant step for mankind.
By Mandela thing, he means Mandela effect, where people think things are real that didn't really happen.
Yes, that Mandela thing. Okay, bye!
We hope you enjoyed our episode. Thank you for listening. And to catch all the new episodes, please subscribe. We release at least 1 and generally 2 to 3 episodes a week, so we have new content regularly. Until next time.